Hey everybody, we are going to learn how to build a pot of soup. I use this method to, if I'm making soup, if I'm making, say, lasagna, anything that's like a one pot meal, this is how I measure how many calories is in my meal. Also, if you guys put everything in correctly, it will calculate how many grams of protein you're getting out of that meal. So we're going to jump right in. I obviously have things laid out. I'm just making up ingredients for, say, chili. Um, so just kind of bear with me. Make sure you guys have a way to calculate things. And I'm going to say, like one little disclaimer. Once you build a recipe in your fitness tracker, or say you write it down and you know exactly how many calories are in your soup or in your lasagna, I tend to make it exactly the same every single time. That way, I don't have to recalculate. Also, hypothetically speaking, you're making a smaller pot, but say you're making a half of a pot or something. You guys can always go and edit your exact recipe. Say you only used 2 pounds of hamburger versus 4 pounds. You guys can always edit that in your calorie tracker in your recipe area, and it will recalculate how many calories are in that new batch. Just say you swapped out one thing for a lesser amount, you can always do that. It should recalculate properly for you. So to get started, I have a notebook handy. And guys, I know this is tedious, but you have to do the work. Weight loss is not going to come easy. Building recipes is not going to come easy. So just make sure that you are ready to do the work. Now, so what we're going to start with is I'm going to use my pot, obviously, and I'm going to start building the recipe. One method of doing this is just taking the measurement off of your can. So I will say for most recipes, using grams is going to be your easiest way to build your recipe. Okay, so we're going to weigh some things, and some things already have the measurement on it. So we're going to use, hopefully you guys can see this, dark red kidney beans. So I'm going to use the grams on here instead of ounces, and you'll see why here shortly. So this is 439 grams. So I will write down kidney beans, and I just kind of abbreviate. So this is 439 grams. So hypothetically speaking, I'm using 2 cans of these. I'll put times 2 because I'll know I put 2 cans in there. So that goes in your pot. Okay. We're using tomato paste. Okay. So tomato paste is 170 grams. Guys, help yourselves by keeping the same unit of measurement. Okay. Because if you do grams in some, ounces in others, it's just not going to be right. You need to make sure everything's in the exact same unit of measurement. So that's 170 grams. I'm not going to put times 1 because I know I'm only using 1 can. So now I've got chili beans, and my writing is horrendous, just bear with me. 425 grams. We're going to use 2 cans, so that's times 2. Put that in your pot of soup. We're going to do black beans, and this is 432 grams. We're going to just do one for, just because it's easier. Now we're doing Rotel, and it's 283 grams. We're going to just do 1 can of that. And then dark red kidney beans. Okay. That is also 439 grams. Okay. Now, we're going to use an onion. Now, this is where, this is how you calculate things that don't have a label. So we're going to throw an onion. You guys, you use the same way to do jalapenos. I do jalapenos. I do onions, green peppers. I put a ton of veggies in my chili because everything basically goes in chili. Not everything, but you know what I mean. So hypothetically speaking, I peeled this onion. I chopped this onion up. We're going to weigh it now because we need to know how many onions are, how many grams this is. So I'm going to use the same bowl as I used earlier. Put that bowl on there because that's what we're going to chop our onion and throw it in. Remember to clear it out. If not, you're going to get the measurement of the bowl too. Act like this is chopped up and ready for your soup. You weigh that out. One onion, and I'm going to put onion, is 228 grams. Guys, if you can your own beans, if you can your own tomato juice, whatever the case may be. Make sure that you weigh it out in grams. Clear out your container you're pouring it in to measure and get the measurement in grams, okay? Don't use ounces, like I said, because it's going to be harder. You can't do 10 ounces plus 10 grams equals 20 grams. Like, you have to have everything in the exact same unit of measurement. So we are going to throw that onion in there just like that, okay? So there's our soup. Now, we are going to, whoops, I didn't mean to change that. We're going to clear that back out. I always clear my scale. Okay, now we're going to add ground beef, okay? Now, obviously, I am not going to have real ground beef. I'm just going to use this bowl of water. So I'm going to make sure my scale says 0. Now, guys, I will say, if you know that you have 4 pounds of ground beef, okay, you guys could always look it up or put it in MyFitnessPal that says, okay, I suck at math. So 16 times 4, because there's 16 ounces a pound. That's 64 ounces of ground beef. You guys can always Google it or MyFitnessPal to see how many grams are in 64 ounces of ground beef, or you can just weigh it out, put your container on there, clear your container out, and then put your ground beef in it. It can be raw, that's fine. Just make sure you put it in your your fitness tracker correctly, because cooked versus raw are 2 totally different numbers. So to keep it a little bit easier, we're going to act like I cleared out my container. This is ground beef, okay? Okay, that is 1.340 kilograms, okay? So now I get my Google out, and I didn't plan on it being that much, but we're going to Google this, and we're going to say, grams in kilograms. Okay, so there's 1,000 grams in your kilograms, or you can actually say, how many grams, you got to do your research, is in, if I could type, 1.340 kilograms. Okay, that was easy. So that's actually 1,340 grams. So if you don't know, which I was like, what the heck is that? Okay, make sure that you research it and do the work that way. Make sure you figure out how many grams are in kilograms, because I'm not good at math. Nobody really remembers all this crap. So make sure you use Google also as your friend. Okay, so we just use 1,340 grams of ground beef, okay? So I make sure I cross that off so I don't re-add that number in. Now, we are going to also do, hypothetically speaking, we're going to put our measuring cup on there. We're going to clear it off. Now, guys, I know water is 0 calories, but bear with me. Say you add 1 cup of water. Okay, I cleared it out. We should just be weighing the water. So water is 200 grams. We know that's 0 calories, but you need to allow for the volume of that water, and you'll see why here shortly. So that right there is 200 grams of water. It is 0 calories, but you have to know how much volume is in your soup. Okay, now act like that is all we are putting in our soup, in our lasagna, whatever the case may be. We're going to add all these numbers up because everything is in grams. So 439 times 2 is, and I make this a little simpler, 878 grams. And then I cross that off to make sure that I know that I added that. And I carry all these other numbers over. 425 times 2, because I use 2 cans of this soup, 850 grams. I cross them off to make sure that I got everything. Oh, see, 850 grams. Okay, 432 grams, 283 grams. And I just bring it down here to where it's a lot easier. It's in one column. Now, that one just so happened to line up. I did not plan that. So we're going to add these straight down now. 878 plus 170 plus 850. Now we're on 432, 283, 439, 228 plus 1340. Okay, so this pot of soup is 4,620 grams, okay? Now, once you make your soup, here's the fun part. It's actually the easiest part of all. when you need to choose what serving size you want your soup to be. I usually use 1 cup because for dinner you may have 2 cups, but you also may only want 1 cup. So I use a smaller unit of measurement. So for a bowl of soup or a cup of soup, we're going to use the 1 cup measurement. So again, you put your 1 cup measuring cup or whatever on your scale, you clear that out. So that way, when you measure your soup, you're not measuring the cup that it's being measured in. So we're going to grab this cup of soup out of our pot. Okay, bear with me here. We're going to measure it, and it says 195. Okay, so 1 cup equals 195 grams. Okay, so what do you do with these two numbers? You take 4,620 and divide it by that 195. So you know that 1 cup is your serving size for your soup, okay? Now, you take that 4,620. Make sure you guys are on the camera. Yes. You will divide that by 195 grams. So that means, now, this says 23. Let me make sure. Yeah. 23.69 servings. Guys, I cut that down to 23 because if I put 24, then our calories are underestimated. So I'd rather overestimate. So we're going to say that there's 23 servings per pot of soup. Okay? Now, we're going to pretend, I don't know if you guys can see this, we are going to pretend that that pot of soup is, I'm just going to make up a number, 6,000 calories. So 6,000 calories, I don't know if that's even accurate, 6,000 calories for a whole pot of soup. So how many calories does that mean is in 1 cup? You take that 6,000 calories, you divide it by the 23 servings that's in that pot of soup. So 6,000 divided by your 23 servings, that means you have 200, I'm going to say 261 calories per cup. So that's how you figure out a pot of soup, a thing of lasagna, spaghetti. Guys, whatever you're doing, just use the measurements on the labels. If you're using cans and things, if you're using your own canned goods or something that doesn't have a label, always clear out your bowl or your dish that you're measuring it in and weigh everything out in grams. That's just the easiest way to do it. Also, if you're doing lasagna, okay, we're going to act like lasagna is, everything adds up to be weight-wise. You guys do the same thing, but and say your lasagna is 6,000 calories. Well, you have a 9 by 13, say you get 12, you can get 12 square slices or square pieces of your lasagna, okay? You can either weigh out one of those squares and say there's 12, you divide 6,000 by 12 to give you how many calories are in that if you want to just eyeball your cuts, or you can actually cut it and weigh it out and say, okay, or I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of confused here. So say your whole lasagna is 6,000 calories. You can cut a small slice and weigh it and say, okay, this slice is 195 grams, okay? Just make sure when you cut that lasagna that you have 195 grams on your scale, and you'll know that it's 261 grams per serving. I hope that makes sense. The eyeball method's not really suggested. It's not really the greatest idea. But like I said, with lasagna, you cut like a nice size square and measure it, because if it tells you that you should have 23 servings at 195 grams, just make sure when you cut your lasagna, just take little cuts at a time and put it on your plate to where it measures 195 grams. I know it's tedious, but guys, it has to be done if you really want to reach your goals. Eyeballing, the eyeball method, is not really great for most of us because we usually tend to overdo our portion sizes because we don't think that it is that much. So just make sure that you're really adamant about measuring. I know it takes extra time, but once you have all this work done, and I don't care if you have a notebook with your recipes and portion sizes and all that, once you do that, you can go back and repeat that exact same recipe. Then all the work is done for you. just keep that same recipe. If you have a recipe in MyFitnessPal and you add an extra spice to it or whatever, I usually leave the serving size the same. But if you add another cup of water, you just need to add, say 200 grams more of water and then divide it by however many servings you get. Just recalculate really quick. But if most of the work's done for you, it's pretty easy to figure out. Just stick with those recipes. Guys, let me know if this helped you. Let me know if I made it more difficult than it should have been, because sometimes I tend to do that. But hopefully this helps you with your calculating and your measuring.